had by dint of long sufferance, he said, obtained over his spirit, an effect which the physique of the grey walls and turrets, and of the dim tarn into which they all looked down, had at length brought about upon the morale of his existence.
In other words, he says, the house is haunting me. Okay? To haunt means what? See, I've had juniors that say, I never realized that. When you call it a haunted house, what does the word haunted mean? Well, it means scary, but haunted means the house is scaring you. The house, the physical house, he says, there's something about this house. Can you imagine if you're the narrator and you've ridden on horseback through scary woods and you finally come at the end of the day to this house, which freaks you out anyway, and then you go in and the guy living in the house says, I haven't left this house for a long time. It won't let me leave. This house is freaking me out. It's haunted. It's trying to kill me. I'm going to die in this house because the house is killing me. I mean, what do you do if you're the narrator? And I'm glad you're here because I need you here. You got to help me through this. What do you do? Right? So already the reader is starting to say, whoa, 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 this is kind of a freaky story. He doesn't want to be there, but he feels like he has to be there because his pal is there. And something's wrong with this house of Usher. Let's keep reading. Poe, if you know how to read him, well, Poe is setting you up big time for what's about to come, right? Here we go.
Admitted, however, although with hesitation, that much of the peculiar gloom which thus afflicted him could be traced to a more natural and far more palpable origin, to the severe and long-continued illness, indeed to the evidently approaching dissolution of a tenderly beloved sister.
Sick sister.
His sole companion for long years, his last and only relative on earth. Her decease, he said with a bitterness which I can never forget, would leave him, the hopeless and the frail, the last of the ancient race of the Ushers.
So in other words, he says, I can tell you what's wrong with me, and I can tell you why I'm sad and freaked out about the future. It's because my sister is dying. And once she dies, the whole Usher family will be only me. And because of that, he says, I'm totally freaked out and scared about the future. My sister, who I love, is dying. Makes sense, right? Makes sense.
While he spoke, the Lady Madeline, for so was she called,
Lady
passed
Madeline,
through a remote portion of the apartment, and without having noticed my presence, disappeared. I regarded her with an utter astonishment, not unmingled with dread, and yet I found it impossible to account for such feelings. A sensation of stupor oppressed me as my eyes followed her retreating steps. When a door at length closed upon her, my glance sought instinctively and eagerly the countenance of the brother, but he had buried his face in his hands, and I could only perceive that a far more than ordinary wanness had overspread the emaciated fingers, through which trickled many passionate tears. The disease of the Lady Madeline had long baffled the skill of her physicians. A settled apathy, a gradual wasting away of the person, and frequent, although transient affections of a partially cataleptical character were the unusual diagnosis. Hitherto she had steadily borne up against the pressure of her malady, and had not betaken herself finally to bed. But on the closing in of the evening of my arrival at the house, she succumbed, as her brother told me at night with inexpressible agitation, to the prostrating power of the destroyer, and I learned that the glimpse I had obtained of her person would thus probably be the last I should obtain, that the lady, at least while living, would be seen by me no more.
last time he saw her.
For several days ensuing, her name was unmentioned by either Usher or myself, and during this period I was busied in earnest endeavors to alleviate the melancholy of my friend. We painted and read together, or I listened, as if in a dream, to the wild improvisations of his speaking guitar. And thus, as a closer and still closer intimacy admitted me more unreservedly into the recesses of his spirit, the more bitterly did I perceive the futility of all attempt at cheering a mind from which darkness, as if an inherent positive quality, poured forth upon all objects of the moral and physical universe in one unceasing radiation of gloom.
Now, when we look at that last word, gloom, that's the word we're going to write down at level 1 to this point in our story. The story is actually fairly simple once we begin to dissect it. To this point at level 1, you could write down rather quickly all that has actually happened. It's basically only been 3 things. 1, he arrives at the mansion. 2, he meets Roderick Usher. 3, he gets his one and only glimpse of Madeline, the sister who is ill and will soon, they fear, die. The challenge, of course, for the narrator is he's got to stay here for a number of days, and he's trying to help his pal. Now, if you wanted to, you could easily today write down what we understand as being probably fundamentally wrong with him. He is in a state of depression. So let's write that down, right? He is in a state of depression. Now, back when Poe wrote this story, there wasn't as good an understanding of what we meant when we talked about depression. What was depression? How did you fix it? Oftentimes, the way you fixed depression, if you were a doctor, was to prescribe drugs that would make you even more like opium, stone you. And often, believe it or not, doctors would say you need to go in where it's dark and lay down and sleep long periods of time. Of course, today we have completely different treatments for depression. The last thing we will tell patients is to go in and sit in the dark and not do anything, right? Okay? But we're going to notice here that this word gloom is going to be the word for our story. It's kind of sad. Now, we've worked already at level 1. Let's jump to 2A real quickly, and let's make a couple of quick observations about possible messages or themes. Already, let's go ahead and write down as a possible message or theme that a place can attend to or be a part of a depressive state. Right? The brother is worried about his sister, but he also is worried about this strange house that he lives in. Okay? Another possible message for us up to this point, or theme, is the theme of sadness, depression, and the way that can kind of pervade all other parts of a person's life. All right? At 2B, we've already mentioned the dense prose. It's a very dense kind of prose that we're working with. Can we just say it out loud? It's hard to sometimes read Poe, right? You have to stop. You have to back up. You have to read it again. He forces you as a reader to slow down. You can't skim through one of Poe's stories. He doesn't allow it. His prose doesn't allow it. Let's also point out at 2B really quickly that Poe is going to use language to, in some ways, set you up for this scary mansion story, where you're not totally sure yourself as a reader what is really going on. The narrator is going to open up the story to you the way the narrator is experiencing the story as well, telling you just little bits and pieces of what is going on. Clearly, he is in a freaky place with freaky people. Level 3. This is easy, isn't it? You can right now jot down your 3 favorite scary movies. Go ahead and do what is for you. If you had to say, what is your favorite scary movie or TV show of all time, what is that for you? And when you write that down, ask yourself, does it have anything to do with place? And immediately, most of you will go, wow, you know what, you're right. Whatever scary stuff happens seems to happen in one location, and a lot of times it is a house. Some of you will just come right out and say, I never realized this, but my scariest movies all happen in not small houses, but large houses with lots of rooms and lots of halls. And interestingly, the major scary stuff doesn't happen in daylight, but at nighttime, when it's dark. so that when things start jumping out, we can get pretty freaked out about that. Now, if you think about movies, though, one of the things that sometimes we don't really recognize is the music of the movie that sets up the mood of scary. Go back and look at the movie title you wrote down and pay attention to the music. Can we say this out loud? Poe creates his own scary music through his syntax. Do you got me? Anybody can say, I showed up at a mansion and it looked kind of freaky and this guy inside was really jacked up and his sister was even worse. Anybody can say that. It's taken Poe 5 pages to be able to tell you, musically almost, through the language, this is one freaky place I was at. The music always seems to attend good film, right? Finally, 3B. What are your thoughts about being scared? Do you like to be scared? Do you like scary movies? Some students will say, dude, I hate scary movies. I won't watch them. They just totally freak me out. And other students will say, no, I actually pay money to go in and sit down and let something jump out at me and totally freak me out. Why is that? Why are you a person that likes to be scared in scary movies or doesn't like to be scared? Another 3B question, and this is easy. When was the most scared you ever were? When was the most scared you ever were? And then as you write about it, ask yourself, was that fear predominantly physical, like somebody was ready to get you, or was it more psychological, mental fear about wondering what was going to happen, worrying what was going to happen? Some of us will write at 3B about a time we experienced a depressive state, a state of total melancholy. The French word that gets used earlier in the story is ennui, boredom. Kind of like a feeling of fatigue, tired, don't want to do anything, can't quite come up with a good reason to get out of bed in the morning. Can't sleep at night though. Right? Just kind of worry, fear. The word dread gets used, and then of course the word that we stopped on, and we'll pick up now our next session with this word, the word gloom. Gloom. Maybe a 3B final question is, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling depressed or melancholy-ridden, what's the best way to deal with that? Maybe to talk with someone, to have a conversation, to get help. Notice that Usher will request help, right? But the right kind of help is obviously the most important. Well, there you go. An introduction to The Fall of the House of Usher, a classic short story of horror fiction. Thank you.